Got them Social Security. It was a Democratic president that brought electricity to rural America, the RTA through, or the REA rather through the Franklin Roosevelt administration. It was the Democratic Party who brought phones to rural America. It was the Democratic Party that brought Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, and public education to rural America, subsidized all those things. Democrats don't need to be listening to rural America. They need to be talking to rural America. There's over 1,500 right-wing radio stations in rural America talking smack all the time, 24/7, and none in rural America carrying a progressive message. That's what Democrats need to be paying attention to. You can check out our new video on this over at thomhartmann.com. And welcome back. Thom Hartmann here with you. My apologies to our affiliates who were getting a pre-recorded show earlier prior to this break, I think. It was reported on Twitter to us that an old show was running, and I asked one of our listeners if that was the case, and he said yes, and so Sean called our satellite provider, Westwood One, and it turns out that they had, instead of putting the live show on, which we've been doing all day, it's been a live Anything Goes Friday, somebody pushed the wrong button or, forgot to push the right button or whatever. I don't think there was any malice or anything. These kind of things happen. It's the last day. It's not the last day, but I think it's next to the last day of Mercury retrograde. But somebody pushed the wrong button and an old show was going out. But I've been sitting here doing this show for 2.5 hours today. And hopefully we are now live on all our affiliates. And I just, my apologies to you if you had been listening to a pre-recorded show. It should not happen. It should not have happened. So anyhow, all's well that ends well, I suppose. Zach in North Hollywood, California. Hey, Zach, what's on your mind today?
Morning, Tom. I'd just like to know when rural America is going to get it that the GOP's the heads I win, tails you lose, bait and switch for the rich party, But my main question today is how high on the priority list for Biden should it be that we not only get rid of the filibuster, but more importantly, I think, is getting rid of this flimsy Nixon OLC memo at the DOJ, which gave Trump, which not only handcuffed Mueller, but gave Trump claimed actual immunity from criminal acts during his time in office.
Yeah, it's crazy. Well, I think step one, Zach, is for President Biden to get himself an attorney general. So far, the Senate has not taken that up. I believe they're going to next week. In fact, I think it passed out of committee yesterday, or at least it was supposed to. I haven't seen a specific story saying that he got out of the Judiciary Committee yesterday, but I think I did hear on NPR this morning that the vote on Merrick Garland would be next week. So step one, get an attorney general. Step two, have the attorney general direct the Office of Legal Counsel to reevaluate that memo or rewrite it or whatever.
Yeah, it could happen again if we don't address it,
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And, just generally not a good thing. Zach, thanks. It's a great point, and I really appreciate your making it. Lisa in Montreal, Canada. Hey, Lisa, what's up?
Hi, thanks for taking my call. No, I was listening during the week, and I couldn't help myself, but this is Friday now, anything goes. Mm-hmm. And I had to, call in about the crazy nonsense with the wind turbines. I mean, Canada's the 9th producer of wind energy in the world. And I mean, we have like 301 wind turbines. I mean, and we're in the north. I mean, okay, I'm in Montreal, but in northern Quebec, wind turbines have, that's their energy source. I mean, all through the prairies, northern Ontario, the prairie provinces, Northwest Territories relies heavily on wind turbines. So
and unlike the sun, the wind blows 24/7. Your wind turbines are not freezing up because You've got engineers who know how to winterize them, right?
We have de-icing blades. There's radiant blades. That's what we can go. Usually they can hold up to minus 30 degrees Celsius. I don't know what that is in Fahrenheit. I'm sorry we run here on Celsius, so I'm not good
That's
on.
Okay. It would have to be in the neighborhood of minus 30 or 40 Fahrenheit. I mean, I don't know what it would be either, but.
I'm not good at the translation, but I mean, I was so shocked because a morning this week I'm watching. I think it was Morning Joe, and here's the governor, Tex Abbott, talking about it's Green New Deal. I was so shocked. My boyfriend and I looked at each other and goes, "What?" It's like, are you kidding me? I mean, and especially after here in Quebec, we had in 1996 the huge ice storm, which is exactly what is happening in Texas and your southern states. And I mean, we were out. I mean, Hydro-Quebec had a complete failure for 2 weeks. I mean, it was pure hell here, and they had to revamp because they're so heavily regulated, especially here. It's a publicly owned company. I mean, there's investments in it. Their pensions are invested in. So you have to regulations are needed in order for I mean, and also Hydro-Quebec is not about. It's the only one in Quebec that regulates any type. Your hydroelectricity. It's very big here, and there's natural gas. Oil is very low. I should have checked the percentages, but it is absolutely mind-boggling to me that people could be gaslighted like that. It's just not true, and Americans have to inform themselves. It's just not true. And that was what was so
you and our caller from Iowa who was talking about all the wind turbines that they have there. It's just, Greg Abbott was lying through his teeth. He was just trying to cover his own butt and trying to suck up to his big fossil fuel guys. So anyhow, Lisa, I got to move along, but thank you for the call. It's great to hear from you, and thanks for listening to us there in Montreal. Roy in Corpus Christi, Texas. Hey, Roy, what's on your mind today?
I'm waiting for the delay, Tom. Can you hear me?
I hear you just fine, Roy.
Okay. While we're on the subject of our esteemed governor here in Texas, I live in Corpus Christi. Well, I exist in Corpus Christi. I wouldn't call it living right now. We've been freezing our butt off for the last couple of days. The only thing the governor has done for me to keep me warm was his inane comments about how proud we are to be free of regulation. I have a problem with some of those regulations and what their root cause is. In 2015, I put solar on my roof, Dow solar shingles, and they worked out real well. And I thought, well, I have this vacant lot that I own next to my home. Why don't I cover it in solar panels? And then I'd be totally energy free. In fact, the energy company would pay me each month. But there's laws. City laws in this case, but they're based on the state law. It says, no, you can't do that. You can't put solar panels on your private property unless they're on your roof. Well, I'm not wealthy. I have a small house. And
your roof isn't that big.
Enough roof space on mine.
Right.
Now I am stuck with this lot. I'd love to put solar panels on it. I'd love to put a windmill on it. But I can't do that because a windmill in Texas has to be 100 yards from a residence. And my neighbor is less than 100 yards from me, so I can't put up a windmill. I can't put solar panels on it. And I'm not free, darn it, and I'm tired of listening to Mr. Abbott and his predecessor, Mr. Perry, and our current Attorney General saying that Texans would rather freeze for a couple of days than have the tyranny of regulation.
Right.
Both weekends.
When they're regulating you to the point where you can't do solar. Louise and I were in Hawaii. It was for a board meeting for Vocal, and I also did my show from our Honolulu affiliate for a week. This was 3 or 4 years ago, and there was a big debate going on at that time Apparently, there's a for-profit utility there that wanted to make it impossible, basically, for people to have solar on their homes and still be connected to the grid. And they were claiming, it's all about safety. What if somebody's home sends a spike down the line? And, of course, there are devices that prevent that from happening, but they were pretending that there weren't. And, you know, this is what utilities do, Roy. They lobby for regulation that basically screws average working people and helps them. And not all regulation is good regulation, as you're pointing out correctly. And I think it's important for us to once in a while recognize that. Roy, thanks a lot for the call. Sean, I think we're in a break right now. It's 45 minutes past the hour here on the Thom Hartmann Program. We'll be back with more of your calls on Anything Goes Friday in just a second. Stick around.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann. Visit thomhartmann.com for audio and video archives.
Speaking the truth, it's the big fossil fuel industry we'd rather you really didn't know all about. Thom Hartmann here. And welcome back. Brian in Tacoma, Washington. Hey, Brian, what's up? Puerto Rico?
Yeah, hey. I'm not convinced. Maybe you can convince me, but I'm not convinced Puerto Rico is going to be a Democratic state and have Democratic senators and whatnot. If we make them a state, they have a Republican governor. They have, so I hear your push for D.C. and Puerto Rico, and I'm just not convinced Puerto Rico will go Democratic. But please convince me, or please, let me know what you think, and I'll take your opinion off the air. Thank you. Bye.
Yeah. Well, Brian, that's interesting. I am not that familiar with Puerto Rico's politics, so I can't really address it. I remember during the hurricane and Maria, and immediately thereafter that the mayor of the largest city in Puerto Rico was taking Donald Trump to task. And but whether they'd be a red state or a blue state, I don't know. I still think that it's a good idea to have Puerto Rican statehood, and I think that we should add the U.S. Virgin Islands as well. I'm going to have to do a little research on that and figure out what the scoop is. Let's see here, Tracy in Richmond, Virginia. Hey, Tracy, what's up?
Hey, how you doing, Tom? Nice to talk to you again. I just wanted to call in to make a little statement about what's going on in the world. I mean, we're not going to survive the way we're going. We need a whole new paradigm where we're all pitching in, doing what we got. We got the technology. We got enough resources for everybody on this planet to live at least a middle life class. You know what I mean? A middle class life. I'm sorry. And it just kills me to see going through these Republican, Democrat. I mean, it's like good cop, bad cop. They're playing us against each other. It's not going to work. And I just want to say to the people out there, your listeners already know they're pretty enlightened, and I enjoy the show. But if we don't get it together as a people, we're in trouble, man. I don't know if we're going to make it as a species.
I agree.
I know I'm getting a little deep, but I mean, this is elementary. We got to get together on this planet because it's just a speck in the universe. We're a speck on a speck. And if we don't figure out a way to live together, we're going to perish. We're going to go the way of the dinosaurs, man.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah. You wonder what species might replace us, intelligent cockroaches? Yeah.
But these movies we watch on TV about, the end of the world and everything, hey, man, that could happen. You see what happened, with storming the Capitol. I mean, I don't get it, because we don't have to live this hard of a life. If we all pitched in and helped each other, looked out for each other.
Yeah, and they do that in other countries, Tracy.
But it's all about greed. Greed is destroying this planet.
Yeah.
When it's ridiculous.
And yeah, and it's destroying the human race. It's destroying our politics. It's destroying our culture. It's I'm with you. Tracy, very well said. Thank you very much for the call. I appreciate it. It's 10 minutes before the hour. We'll be back with more of your calls here on Anything Goes Friday in just a moment. Stick around. The Hartmann Report is a free daily podcast, 7 days a week, and you can find our entire 3-hour podcast over at thomhartmann.com. Hey, we have a new video for supporters of our program over at thomhartmann.com. It's about curing type 1 diabetes, which is a pretty amazing thing. Type 1 diabetes is where the cells in the pancreas that produce insulin are actually destroyed. They're gone. Type 1 diabetics, typically it shows up in childhood. And without insulin, people die from it fairly young. With insulin, they can live a good long life, but a University of Alberta researcher, Dr. James Shapiro, back in 1990 pioneered a transplant system. Now, the problem with that was that people had to use immunosuppressive drugs for the rest of their lives because they had just gotten, a partial pancreas transplant from another person. But now he's successfully on mice worked out a way of actually curing type 1 diabetes. We can't do it legally here in the United States, but they're doing it in Canada. It's amazing. You can check it out at thomhartmann.com. Welcome back. David in Minneapolis. Hey, David, what's on your mind today?
Hello, first-time caller. Anything Goes Friday question. The Brett Kavanaugh appointment that was kind of shoved through very fast, they did a token FBI investigation of if the charges of sexual assault were discoverable, and it looked like a whitewash done quickly, and then they voted him in. Could that investigation be reopened if they could establish the charges were valid? Could he be impeached?
It's a good question, David. I don't know the answer. Legally, technically, the answer is yes. The big question is practically, is the Biden Justice Department willing to burn political capital on going after Brett Kavanaugh? And there's other things, by the way. It's not just, whether he was a rapist when he was in high school or early on in his college career. It's also where did all that hundreds of thousands of dollars, he was several $100,000 in debt, and there's a question about whether he had, big gambling debts, and he was living large for a guy who was, just a federal judge. He had a huge house with a huge mortgage, and all that got paid off when he was nominated for the court. And we still don't know who paid off all his debts. And we still don't know if he's, if he has a gambling problem or if he still has a gambling problem. It's just, there's a lot unknown there. Literally not one single document. He worked inside the Bush administration, the George W. Bush administration for a while, and apparently participated in authorizing torture for the prisoners that we had gathered after 9/11 in Afghanistan and Iraq. But not one piece of paper was allowed to be released or entered into the evidence in that trial, or in that confirmation hearing. So I think there's something very, very skeezy about Brett Kavanaugh, and I'd like to know what it is. Also, Myra Shelby is an extraordinarily qualified African-American judge who was set to go on to the Seventh Circuit Court of Appeals. And Mitch McConnell refused, and she had been nominated by President Obama in the last year of his presidency for the Seventh Circuit. And Mitch McConnell refused to even consider her. He held up her nomination for about a year just to keep that slot open so that Amy Coney Barrett could take that slot as her first job as a federal judge. And then, within a year or two, I guess it was 2.5 years, she was transferred from that position on the Seventh Circuit onto the Supreme Court after a rather undistinguished career of bizarre judgments and things. So there was a lot of, and then also I want to know, is it true that Donald Trump, or is it false that Donald Trump basically blackmailed Anthony Kennedy, who's still in perfect health and out there, being a young athlete, essentially. I mean, he's in his 70s, but he's in great shape. Did he blackmail Anthony Kennedy into leaving the court so that he could put Kavanaugh on the court? And was that, and was the vehicle that he used Anthony Kennedy's son, who was the guy who signed off on over $1 billion worth of loans because his son was in charge of high-income private banking at Deutsche Bank? And, Trump even made a public reference to Kennedy's son, to Kennedy, just a few months before Kennedy suddenly decided to retire. And I think that there's something skeezy there, too. And frankly, inquiring minds want to know. We should all know. David, thank you for raising the topic. Jeff in Portland, Oregon. Hey, Jeff, what's up?
Hey, good morning, Tom. Happy Friday. In the summer, this past summer, President Biden, in his convention speech, he outlined the four major crises we were facing: the pandemic, the economy, climate change, and racial injustice. But I think the events since then demand we identify one more major crisis, and that's a democracy crisis, as in democracy versus fascism. And Tom,
Agreed.
for historical and for historical context, as you like to often do, going back to the 30s and 40s, not only did FDR fight fascists abroad, he fought them at home as well. The fascist American First movement was funded by oligarchs like Henry Ford and propelled by the radio host Father Coughlin, who had an audience probably combined the size of Rush Limbaugh and Fox News together. In 44, FDR introduced his second Bill of Rights. When he introduced that, he said, people who are hungry and out of a job are the stuff of which dictatorships are made. And to your point on, to your post on Medium.com today, Tom, from 44 till 1980, we were slowly yet surely moving toward enacting FDR's second Bill of Rights. And then the Reagan Revolution totally stopped us in our tracks. So if we're going to get back on track, if Joe Biden wants to succeed, and if our democracy is going to survive, we have to convince him and Manchin and Sinema that ending the filibuster in the name of democracy is our only option. Don't you agree?
I agree. I absolutely agree. Jeff, great rant. Thank you very much. Hey, special thanks to Louise Hartman, Sean Taylor, Nate Atwell, Jamie Holly, Joyce the Hammer Nance, Nigel Peacock, Sue Nethercutt, Patrick Hoyt, Geraldine Halbert, Ron Hartenbaum, Chase Spross, Nicholas Miller, Pat Sweeney, Jabbermocky, and Jay LeBlanc. Thank you so much for helping make this show work. And thank you for helping make this show work. We really appreciate it. Thank you for your feedback and your thoughts and your tweets and everything else. Get out there, get active, tag You're It. Democracy needs you. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you on Monday after Mercury retrograde is gone.
You've been listening to Thom Hartmann. For audio and video archives, visit thomhartmann.com.
These companies support the Thom Hartmann Program. They are Gabi.com. Gabi takes the pain out of shopping for insurance. More info at Gabi.com/Tom. Teeth, Smarter Pet Dental Help. More info at teethhealth.com, code Tom. HelloFresh, delivering fresh ingredients and mouthwatering recipes. More info at hellofresh.com, code Tom. Bowl and Branch, crafted for the common good. More information at bowlandbranch.com, code Tom. ExpressVPN, the VPN that just works. More info at expressvpn.com/Tom. And CB Distillery, CBD for sleeping. More info at cbdistillery.com, code Tom.